Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever looked around and wondered why only a tiny fraction of people, just 2%, seem to reach the heights of success while the rest, the overwhelming 98%, fall short? Have you ever sat in silence, staring at the ceiling in the dark, and asked yourself, what is it that separates them from me? Let me tell you something today. It's not talent, it's not luck, and it's definitely not resources. The real difference is in the decision to show up when it hurts, to rise when it's easier to stay down, to speak when your voice is shaking, and to believe in yourself when the world calls you foolish. Success is not about talent, it's about resilience. We live in a world that glorifies talent, that puts gifted individuals on pedestals and praises natural ability as the ultimate advantage. But if talent were truly the answer, the most successful people would always be the most gifted. Yet time and time again, we see those with seemingly average abilities rising above those who were once called prodigies. Why? Because talent may open the door, but resilience is what keeps you walking through it. Talent can make you shine for a moment, but it is resilience that keeps the light burning when everything around you grows dark. There are countless people with immense talent who never reach their potential because they never learn how to endure the storms. The moment things get difficult, they freeze, they doubt themselves, they let fear wrap its cold hands around their ambition and slowly suffocate it. On the other hand, those with resilience, those who have been through the fire and refuse to let it burn away their spirit, they keep going. They fall and rise again, and in that process they become stronger than they ever imagined. They develop a depth that talent alone cannot provide. Resilience is built in the moments when everything feels like it's falling apart. When no one believes in you, when your dreams feel foolish, when the voices in your head are louder than any applause you've ever received, it's in those moments that you decide whether to shrink back or step forward. Most people shrink, not because they are weak, but because they were never taught that falling is part of the journey. They were never told that wounds can become wings. They think failure is the end, when it is actually the beginning of a new kind of strength. A resilient person doesn't pretend to be fearless. They just refuse to be ruled by fear. They know fear is part of the process, not the enemy. They walk with it, speak through it, and continue despite it. They don't need perfect circumstances or external validation. They show up broken, tired, uncertain, and still do the work. That quiet persistence, that decision to keep moving even when every part of you wants to quit, that's what separates those who succeed from those who don't. There are days when your heart will be heavy and your path unclear, days when no progress seems visible and your effort feels invisible. Those are the days resilience matters most, because talent doesn't help when you're exhausted. It doesn't comfort you when you're grieving. It doesn't push you out of bed when the weight of life pins you down. Only resilience does that. Only that deep, soul-level refusal to give up has the power to carry you forward when logic tells you to stop. We must unlearn the lie that we are either born for greatness or not. The truth is, greatness is built, brick by brick, choice by choice, moment by moment. Resilience is the tool that builds it, and like any tool, it sharpens with use. The more you choose to endure, the more you choose to rise, the stronger that part of you becomes. It is not about never breaking down, it is about never staying broken. It's about knowing that strength is not found in perfection, but in persistence. It's found in those silent battles where no one sees your effort, but you keep showing up anyway. It's found in the courage to begin again, even after losing everything you thought mattered. It's found in trusting that who you're becoming through the struggle is far more powerful than who you were before it. The 98% stop when it hurts. The 2% rise through the pain. Pain is the one thing every human being experiences. It shows up in different ways, in failure, in heartbreak, in rejection, in loss, but no one escapes it. The difference is not whether you feel pain, it is what you do when it arrives. Most people let pain become the final chapter. The moment things get too uncomfortable, they take a step back. They say it's not worth it. They convince themselves that maybe their dream wasn't meant for them after all. They confuse discomfort with danger and retreat into the safety of what is familiar. Pain, however, is not the enemy. It is a mirror. It shows you who you are when things are hard. It strips away the masks, the performances, the carefully constructed illusions, and leaves only truth. And truth is not always easy to face. That's why the 98% walk away, because pain asks you to keep walking with bleeding feet. It asks you to believe in your path when nothing around you makes sense. It demands growth, and growth is never comfortable. The 2%, they don't enjoy pain. They are not immune to it, but they have learned to walk through it with grace. They know that on the other side of pain lies transformation. They don't see suffering as punishment, but as preparation. When the world falls apart around them, they don't fall with it. They bend, but they don't break. And even if they break, they put themselves back together piece by piece, not as who they were, but as someone wiser, stronger, more capable. There's a reason why most people stop at pain, because pain challenges your identity. It whispers that you are not enough. It questions your worth, your dreams, your direction. And if you have not built a relationship with yourself, one based on trust, belief, and compassion, you will listen to that voice. You will mistake temporary struggle for permanent failure. You will start to think maybe you're just not one of the lucky ones. But luck is not the reason the 2% make it. Endurance is. The 2% have made peace with the process. They don't ask for a painless journey. They ask for the strength to endure it. They cry, they stumble, they scream in silence, but they keep moving. Because they know that breakthroughs don't come when you're comfortable. They come when you've reached your limit and you choose to keep going anyway. They understand that progress often feels like pain before it looks like success. The truth is, pain does not destroy people, it reveals them, and what it reveals is not weakness, it is potential. Pain uncovers the parts of you that need to be faced, the patterns that need to be broken, the truths that need to be acknowledged. It humbles you, but it also prepares you. It takes away everything you thought you needed and shows you that all you ever needed was within you. That kind of realization cannot be taught in comfort. It can only be born in the fire. So when pain knocks at the door, the 98% see it as a sign to stop. The 2% see it as an invitation to grow, and not just grow in achievement or recognition, but grow in depth, in courage, in resilience. They walk through it not because they enjoy suffering, but because they understand what it creates within them, and what it creates is not ordinary. It is not average. It is the kind of strength that does not fade when the applause dies. It is the kind of strength that remains when everything else is stripped away. It is the quiet, unshakable strength of someone who refused to stop when it hurt most. The successful choose courage over comfort. It sounds simple, even poetic, but in reality it is one of the most difficult choices a human being can make. Comfort is safe, comfort is familiar. It doesn't ask questions or demand sacrifice. It's the quiet space where nothing goes wrong, but also nothing truly begins. Comfort keeps you in a place where you're not failing, but you're also not growing, and growth always comes wrapped in the clothes of discomfort. It comes with risk, uncertainty, the possibility of rejection, and the inevitability of struggle. That's why most people cling to what they know, to routines, to environments that don't challenge them. Not because they lack dreams, but because they fear what it takes to chase them. Courage is uncomfortable. It requires standing at the edge of what you've always known and stepping into the unknown. It asks you to let go of control, to move without a guarantee, to speak even when your voice trembles. It means showing up in rooms where you feel like an outsider, pursuing opportunities where failure feels more likely than success, and trusting yourself even when doubt is screaming louder than your dreams. The successful understand that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to move forward in spite of it. They know fear is part of the process and make peace with it instead of waiting for it to disappear. Every defining moment in life is preceded by a choice between comfort and courage, and most people make the easier choice, not because they're weak, but because they've never been shown how powerful they really are. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect version of themselves, the perfect conditions, but those moments never come. Courage doesn't wait for perfection. It acts despite the chaos. It rises in the middle of brokenness, uncertainty, and imperfection. It says, I may not be ready, but I will try anyway. And that choice, repeated over time, becomes a foundation strong enough to carry dreams that once felt impossible. There are people with extraordinary talent who will never experience their own greatness because they chose comfort every time it got hard, because they waited for permission, because they feared being judged. The successful don't avoid those fears. They face them. They take the stage while still nervous. They make the call while still unsure. They apply for the role they feel unqualified for, not because they're fearless, but because they've realized comfort never changed anyone's life. It only preserves the version of you that you've already outgrown. Courage is not always loud. Sometimes it's a whisper. Sometimes it's just showing up to your life when you'd rather hide. It's writing one more page, sending one more email, taking one more step. The world often celebrates big wins, but those wins are built on small acts of bravery that no one sees. The successful honor those small, quiet victories. They understand that comfort will always be more seductive, but courage will always be more meaningful. They've learned to live with the discomfort of growing pains rather than the regret of untapped potential. Every time you choose courage, you become a little more of who you're meant to be, not because the path is easy, but because it's real. Because on that path you meet yourself, the unfiltered, unprotected, raw version of you that exists beyond the opinions of others and the limitations of fear. You start to realize that success is not something outside of you. It's something you become through the repeated decision to lean into discomfort and trust that you are strong enough to handle whatever follows. Failure is not a wall, it's a classroom. Most people are terrified of failing because they see it as an end, a final verdict, a message from the universe that says they are not good enough. But failure is not the opposite of success. It is a necessary part of the path that leads to it. It is the teacher that no one asks for but everyone needs. It breaks illusions, reveals blind spots, and teaches lessons that success never could. It strips away pride and introduces you to the deeper parts of yourself, your patience, your strength, your humility. The people who succeed are not the ones who never fail. They are the ones who choose to learn from failure instead of hiding from it. Failure is a test of identity. When things fall apart, it asks you a question. Will you define yourself by this moment, or will you use it to become someone new? Most people run from the question. They pretend it didn't happen, or worse, they make it personal. They believe they are the failure, not just that they failed, and when that belief takes root, it's hard to grow anything else. That's why the majority stop trying after one or two hard hits. They don't lack intelligence or skill, they lack the ability to separate failure from identity. But those who rise, those who truly succeed, understand that failing at something is not the same as being a failure. They know the difference between what happened and who they are in a classroom. Mistakes are expected. In fact, they're encouraged, because that's how you learn. That's how you refine your understanding and discover what works and what doesn't. Failure outside of school works the same way, but somewhere along the way, people forget that. They start believing that adults are supposed to have it all figured out, that making mistakes means you're incompetent or unworthy. So they hide their failures, cover them up, bury them under excuses or silence. What they don't realize is that every failure carries with it a lesson that can unlock the next stage of growth. If only you're willing to sit with it and listen, the successful treat each failure like feedback. They ask, what can I learn from this? What did this experience reveal about my approach, my mindset, my habits? They don't take failure personally, they take it seriously, and that's what makes the difference. While others feel defeated, they feel challenged. While others retreat, they reflect. While others stop, they adjust. They don't romanticize failure, but they don't fear it either, because they've seen what it can teach. They've felt its sting and still chosen to keep going. They understand that real wisdom often comes not from winning, but from losing with awareness. Failure has a way of humbling you without breaking you, if you let it. It removes the fantasy of perfection and replaces it with the truth of progress. It makes you more human, more grounded, more compassionate. It opens your eyes to the realities of effort and the unpredictability of results. It asks you to keep showing up without guarantees, and that kind of persistence, forged through repeated failure, is the very foundation of success. You become someone who is not just chasing success, but growing into the kind of person who can handle it. When it arrives, people who avoid failure often end up avoiding their own potential. They play small, stay silent, and limit their risks. But those who embrace failure expand. They stretch into new versions of themselves. They grow in courage, creativity, and confidence. Not because everything they try works out, but because everything they try teaches them something new. Over time, they collect not just wins but wisdom, and that wisdom becomes their edge. It becomes the reason they stand out. It becomes the reason they keep rising, while others stay stuck behind the fear of falling. The 2% believe in themselves before the world does. Self-belief is not something that appears overnight. It is built in silence, in solitude, and in the shadows long before any spotlight shines on you. Most people wait for the world to approve them before they move. They wait for applause, for support, for permission. But the truth is, the world does not recognize what you don't recognize in yourself. If you don't see your own worth, your own power, your own potential, no one else will see it either. The 98% hesitate because they're waiting for someone to validate their voice. The 2% move forward knowing their voice is valid even if no one listens. Believing in yourself is one of the most courageous things you can do. It means trusting your vision when no one else understands it. It means holding on to your dream when even those closest to you doubt it. It means waking up every day and choosing to believe that you are capable, even when your past is filled with reasons to think otherwise. Self-belief is not arrogance. It is quiet strength. It is the ability to say, I know who I am becoming. Even when the evidence isn't visible, yet most people grow up being told to be realistic, to stay in line, to not aim too high. They're taught to shrink, to fit in, to follow the path of least resistance, and so they do. They bury their ideas, they silence their intuition, they convince themselves that maybe greatness is for someone else. But the 2% think differently. They don't wait to be chosen. They choose themselves. They don't wait until they feel completely ready. They start with what they have and who they are, and they grow along the way. The world often resists what it doesn't understand. When someone steps outside the norm, people question it. When someone speaks with conviction, people challenge it. And when someone starts building something different, people doubt it. This is the moment where self-belief becomes essential. Because if you listen too closely to the noise around you, you will abandon what was placed within you. The 2% know that belief is not something that comes from applause. It comes from alignment, from being deeply connected to your purpose, your story, and your values. Believing in yourself does not mean you never feel fear. It means you don't let fear make your decisions. It means you can feel uncertain and still act. It means you can face rejection and still know your worth. It means you can walk through silence and still speak. It is not about proving anything to the world. It is about staying loyal to the voice inside you, the one that whispers, "There's more for you." Even when everything around you says otherwise, the journey is often lonely at the beginning. You'll share ideas that others don't understand. You'll take steps others call risky. You'll spend long hours building something that hasn't yet produced results. But this is where the foundation is laid. The inner strength formed in these moments is what prepares you for the weight of the success that will eventually come. Those who can't believe in themselves during the drought will not know how to stand strong during the storm. The 2% develop the habit of backing themselves. They become their own support system, their own motivation, their own reminder. They don't deny their flaws, but they don't let them overshadow their potential. They are honest about their weaknesses, but they're anchored in their strengths. They show up imperfect, but they show up fully. And every time they choose belief over doubt, they add another layer of strength to the foundation. Their building this belief becomes unshakable, not because it was never tested, but because it survived the test. It was questioned, challenged, doubted, and stretched, and yet it remained. That kind of belief cannot be borrowed or bought. It must be built brick by brick, choice by choice, moment by moment, especially when no one is watching. Discipline does the work when motivation disappears. Motivation is a spark, a moment of energy that feels unstoppable. It's the rush that comes after a powerful speech, an inspiring story, or a big dream taking shape in your imagination. But motivation is temporary. It fades when things get hard. It disappears when results are slow. It vanishes in the presence of boredom, repetition, or fatigue. That's where most people stop. They rely on motivation, and when it runs out, so does their effort. They chase the next burst of inspiration without realizing that success is not built on emotion. It's built on consistency. The 2% understand that feelings are unreliable, but discipline is a decision. Discipline shows up when you don't feel like it. It does the work when no one is watching. It keeps going when there's no applause, no praise, no immediate reward. It's waking up early when you'd rather sleep, putting in the reps when you're tired, writing the page when your mind is blank. It's not glamorous, it's not exciting, but it's what builds greatness, not in one big leap, but in thousands of small steps taken over time. Most people want to achieve something extraordinary, but they only act when it's convenient. They wait for the right time, the right energy, the right mindset, but those who succeed create their own momentum. They don't wait to feel ready. They build a rhythm and stick to it. Discipline becomes their anchor. It doesn't ask how they feel, it asks what needs to be done. It holds them accountable to their goals long after the emotional high has worn off. Discipline is not about being harsh with yourself. It's about being loyal to your future. It's the voice that says, "I made a promise to myself, and I intend to keep it." It's the quiet force that pushes you past excuses, distractions, and doubts. While others seek shortcuts, the disciplined embrace the long road. They know that true progress takes time, and that time rewards those who use it well. They don't need everything to be perfect. They just need to show up every single day with purpose in a world full of noise. Discipline creates focus. It helps you say no to what doesn't matter so you can say yes to what does. It teaches you how to prioritize, how to protect your energy, how to master your time. The disciplined don't get pulled in 1,000 directions. They don't waste hours scrolling, comparing, or waiting. They take control of their days, and in doing so, They take control of their destiny. There will always be moments when quitting feels easier than continuing. When your goals seem too far, your progress too slow, your efforts invisible, in those moments, motivation won't help you, but discipline will. It reminds you that the process matters more than the feeling. That results are born from repetition, not rare moments of inspiration. That your dreams are worth the discomfort, the patience, and the sacrifice discipline doesn't shout. It doesn't beg for attention. It simply gets to work. It shows up in the small choices, the decision to study instead of scroll, to train instead of quit, to speak truth instead of stay silent. It shapes your character and sharpens your will. It teaches you to value effort over ease, progress over perfection, and the more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. The 2% don't rely on willpower alone. They build systems, habits, and structure. They design their environment to support their discipline. They plan, prepare, and persist. They understand that emotion is fleeting, but discipline creates a rhythm that outlasts every mood. They trust the process even when it feels slow, because they've learned to value consistency over intensity. And through that steady, unshakable commitment, they become the kind of people who don't just dream, but deliver.